Alrighty, everybody. Welcome into another live edition of the Patriots Beat podcast here on the CLNS Media Network. I am Mike Kadlick, joined as always by 98.5 The Sports Hub's Alex Barth. Alex, it's NFL Combine Week. I know this is you're probably in your glory. I've sort of hitched onto that wagon with you as well. Love the Combine. All 32 teams out in Indy, getting a close look at prospects, seeing who they can take, seeing who they can work out. Plenty of interviews, plenty of coaches and personnel getting peppered with questions today. So we're going to get to all that today. But what I do want to start with before we get into our Combine preview, we'll preview the Combine and then we'll also get into the storylines that happened today out in Indy. But first, I want to talk about the one Patriots move, transaction, whatever you want to call it, sort of, that happened today. And that is that free agent wide receiver, Slade Bolden, worked out for the Patriots in Foxborough. If you don't know who Slade Bolden is a slot wide receiver. He played at the University of Alabama. He won a national championship with Mac Jones. And then the following year after Jones was drafted, he played under Bill O'Brien there in Tuscaloosa in 2021. He's a true slot receiver. I want to ask you for your thoughts, Alex, on it first, but here's sort of what I've come to grips with as the day gone on, and I sort of thought about it, right? So when the news first came in, I was like, oh, here we go. Mac's got his guy back. It's going to be Brady Edelman 2.0. He knows he has a guy that he can get on the same page with. Jacoby's going to leave, and Slade's going to fit right in. He worked with him before, and here we go. The more I think about it, as much as I like Slade Bolden, it's Slade Bolden, right? So I don't know if he's going to even make the team. They're probably going to go get another wide receiver. They still have Kendrick Bourne. They have guys in the room. So I don't think Slade Bolden necessarily will make the Patriots roster. But what this move of him coming in for a workout tells me is that at least Mac Jones, it tells me that I think at least Mac Jones and Bill O'Brien are involved in the Patriots offseason. I don't think Bill Belichick on a whim would go out and do this. I think that tells me that Mac said, hey, let's think about Slade. And O'Brien said, yeah, let's think about Slade. So we'll see what we got here. So that's what I took away from it. I don't know what you thought.
I think it's probably Bill O'Brien more than anybody else, even more than
Sure.
Mac Jones. I actually think there would be a chance Slade Bolden makes the team in the sense that they're down a number of specialists, right? Cody Davis is a pending free agent. They're going to lose probably Raekwon McMillan, Matt Wilson free agency, and he can contribute in the kicking game. So I actually think he will have a shot to earn a roster spot there. He doesn't move the needle at all as a receiver. I see people, again, like the Tom Brady, Julian Edelman comp, and he played with Mac in college, and he had Jamison Williams and John Mechie taking coverage away, right? You can't put him in the slot role in Bill O'Brien's offense and expect him to do that without that kind of coverage protection around him. We've talked about the Patriots needing to add speed. He ran a 4.6 640 at the Combine last year. If it wasn't the slowest among wide receivers, it was among the slowest. He doesn't do anything a wide receiver whatsoever. It'd be a fun story. It'd be nice. He's not a wide receiver. He's a special teamer, and he might contribute there, but I don't think he helps you as a wide receiver at all.
Yeah, I think so too. But again, at first it was like, oh, well, because when he was coming out last year, I had him on my radar.
Everybody got all hot and bothered about it. Yeah.
Yeah, undrafted. And then he went to the Ravens. It was like, what the hell? Mac worked with Slade and yada, yada. But I was excited today. And the more I thought about it, I don't know if he's here. But again, like I said, it tells me that O'Brien has involvement and perhaps Jones does too. So Patriots bringing in Slade Bolden. We'll see what happens there. Let's get to the Combine. Combine is obviously this week out in Indy. 32 teams there to take a look at the best prospects. We'll get into, Alex, our prospects to watch for the Patriots. But before that, let's talk about just sort of what happened out there today in Indy, because a bunch of coaches talked, a bunch of executives talked, a bunch of storylines came out, a bunch of cuts happened this morning. So let's try and get to as much as possible. We'll go rapid fire and see what we got to. I wrote down a few. If you have some, we can get to it as well. If you have stuff in the chat that you want us to talk about related to the Combine, we can use you guys as sort of an agenda as well. But I want to start with Jacoby Myers, actually. Two things that came out this weekend / yesterday was Mike Reese from ESPN said that he assumes that Jacoby is going to get somewhere between $15 and $20 million per season on the market. And Phil Perry from NBC Sports Boston reported today that these the talks between the Patriots and Jacoby are likely to start this weekend at the Combine. So are you paying Jacoby that price, Alex? Do you think the Patriots will pay Jacoby that price? And where do you see this going? And where do you see this going with him and then the receiver market after that?
Yeah, no, I think I've said this before. I think it's time for both sides to go their separate ways, because that's your big addition in the off season if you pay Jacoby Myers that kind of money. So, it limits your ability to add a tackle. It certainly limits your ability to add another impact wide receiver. And they need a guy, again, who's going to be more explosive and create after the catch. And that's not who Jacoby Myers is. He's a chain mover. And there's a role for that, certainly in some offenses. But right now, the Patriots don't have a guy that can give them big plays. So just, moving the chains incrementally, teams can take that away without having to worry about anything over the top. So I think that money can be best spent elsewhere. I don't think he gets 20, but I think he gets closer to 20 than 15.
Yeah.
And I don't think that that's in the Patriots budget right now.
I think so too. It's tough because he has a little bit of a rapport with Mac now. He knows the offense. He's a leader. So it's tough to just let a guy walk like that. But when he's that good and when he brings that kind of value to your team, then he's going to command the money. And like you said, bring in a tackle, bring in another wide receiver that's probably better than him, whether that be or has a higher ceiling, whether that be through the draft or through free agency or trade. It just doesn't look like he's here anymore. We'll see what happens. You never know. Maybe they really do like him and they have other plans. They don't need to spend elsewhere at receiver, whatever the case may be. But I would agree that right now I don't think Jacoby's back. But with that, the wide receiver market comes T. Higgins, who has been talked about as a target for the Patriots via trade. There's not so much been rumors, but more so I don't want to call it a rumor because there was nothing backing it. It was more so just an idea. Wide receiver going into his fourth year. Do you pick up his option? Do you trade him? All that good stuff. Teddy Bruschi said that the Patriots should go do it last week. I think everyone thinks the Patriots should go do it if they can. But the Bengals GM this afternoon out in Indy basically said that's not happening. T. Higgins is a good football player. We need good receivers. You go get your own good receivers. I already have mine. So I know that there's a lot of smoke and mirrors at the Combine this week. Guys want to throw people off the scent. For example, Ryan Poles in Chicago is saying that Fields is their guy for now, but they're going to explore it. So I don't know what they're going to do. But thoughts on T. Higgins? It doesn't sound like he's going to go anywhere, but is this more smoke and mirrors, or do you think he's telling the truth?
I think they're going to keep him. I think they're going to do what needs to be done because they need to capitalize on this window right now with Joe Burrow, and trading T. Higgins is not how you do that. So I think he ends up staying in Cincinnati.
Yeah. I guess it depends on the price, though. Like if a team's gonna, blow their doors off, and
look,
I don't know.
The Bengals seem rather unconcerned with offensive line play. I think that they would actually be a team that would consider paying Burrow, Chase, Higgins, and just nobody else. And just they're going to build their offensive line through the draft and on the cheap, and they'll piecemeal it defensively. Like, they seem like the kind of team that would do that. So I think it's a possibility that he's.
Yes, that's fair. Yeah. Well, other free agent, Derek Carr. Derek Carr seems like he's the talk of Indy. Meeting with the Saints, Jets, and Panthers. He's already met with the Jets. He's already met with the Saints. He's now going to meet with Carolina. I think the best spot for Derek Carr is far and away the Jets. I don't really understand why he would want to go to the Saints or the Panthers for that matter. I mean, I guess the Panthers have a decent roster and they have a little bit more capital to build with, but the Saints, Dennis Allen doesn't move the needle for me. They seem to always be in cap trouble. They kind of seem like they're in no man's land. I think the best spot for Derek Carr is no doubt the Jets, and I do probably think that that's where he ends up. But what do you think of Derek Carr and I guess where he's at and where he's going to go and that whole saga?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, he needs to be ready if Rodgers goes to the Packers, right? I think that's what this is. I think he knows the Jets if Rodgers goes to the Jets, right. He needs to be, Rodgers is a better option. Say what you will about the guy. He's kind of becoming the NFL's Kyrie Irving, but he's the better fit. So Carr's not just going to say, oh, well, I didn't get the Jets, so I guess I'm not going anywhere. The Panthers are probably better than the Saints, but at the same time, you want to make sure there's a bidding war. You want to make sure you can get the most you can get. So I think he's just doing his due diligence at this point.
What do you think of the Jets if they do get Derek Carr? Where do they slot
Not
the
as
AFC
I don't
and the
think as
AFC
highly
East?
as them as if they get Rodgers.
Okay. I think regardless in the AFC East, if the Jets get one of the two, I think they're the second best team in the division behind the Bills. I think I
No,
think they
Miami's still
surpassed
better.
Miami.
Miami's still
Really? I
better.
just don't.
Yeah.
I don't know because I don't know with Tua. I think the
When
Jets
that
roster is
offense is
better.
on, it's just such a matchup nightmare.
I suppose. Well, speaking of the Dolphins, Mike McDaniel, another thing today, said that they want to bring in some veteran quarterback competition to their quarterback room. So
So
I
that
don't
would
know
be
if
an
that.
interesting spot for Carr.
Yeah, yeah, it would. But do you think they do it?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
I don't think they'd overextend themselves to do it, but I think they
Yeah.
understand the I think they understand the situation they're in, and if Tua is not going to be the guy, you can't wait around. You've got to have another guy
Right.
ready, like they had with Teddy last year. So, they could be a sleeper team for a quarterback, certainly.
So do you just sit Tua?
No, Tua is your starter,
But
but he has to win the
So
job.
Derek Carr's your backup? Interesting. Okay.
I mean, is he guaranteed he's going to go somewhere where he's the day one starter if it's not the Jets? I don't think he's the day one. He's not definitively the day one starter in New Orleans because they still like Jameis. Carolina, I think, likes Matt Corral. I think he's going to have to beat out Matt Corral for that job. As crazy as that sounds, I don't think he should have to, but I think he would have to beat out Matt Corral for that job. And he probably has a better chance of doing that than beating out Tua,
Yeah.
but
Tua.
I don't think that he's the definitive starter in any of those places.
Really? I think Derek Carr he's obviously a top 32 quarterback, and I know that,
Mike, if he was that good, he'd still be employed. That's the thing about quarterbacks that are available this time of
yeah,
year.
that's
Think
a
about
fair
it.
point.
And in free agency, not in trade.
Right.
Like this doesn't Brady, Stafford, obviously Russell
Yeah,
Wilson,
those are
Tank. Like these
trades.
guys don't count. Think about the quarterbacks that have been free agents the last couple of years. And these teams, mostly the Colts, but these teams continue to kind of hang their hat on them as being saviors. Was Matt Ryan the savior in Indy? No, he was not. I know he was a trade, but he was basically free agent. Was Carson Wentz the savior in Washington? No, he was not. Was Carson Wentz the savior in Indy? No, he was not. Was Phillip Rivers the answer with the Colts? No, he was not.
I think it's more so an indictment on the Colts than this is on the quarterbacks.
Okay, that's fair. Like the Colts suck at quarterbacks.
They just did this for the last 5 seasons. They just got the guy that they thought was gonna somehow push them over the edge, and obviously
this feels like one of those situations. A team that has the kind of talent the Raiders do aren't going to quit on a serviceable quarterback. They're just not going to do it. That doesn't make sense, and they had a better look at him than any of us.
And didn't they just extend him too? As soon as Ziegler and McDaniels got there,
yeah.
They just gave him a contract. Yeah, so that's a fair point. But Saints, Panthers, Jets, all interesting spots for Carr. Okay, Bucks cuts. Let's do the Bucks cuts. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to cut Donovan Smith, tackle, and running back Leonard Fournette. Interestingly, Leonard Fournette last offseason visited with the Patriots when he was a free agent before he ended up re-signing with Tampa. Famously, Tom Brady told him, "What the heck are you doing up there? Come back to Tampa Bay." So he did. Donovan Smith, tackle, had a down year last season, but overall has been solid for Tampa Bay. He's a little bit on the older side now, I think, but could be an interesting free. He adds to the free agent tackle market. So what do you think of Donovan Smith? What do you think of Leonard Fournette? Do the Pats kick the tires on either of them? Do either of them even really fit here? I know you look at Fournette and you look at, same type of running back as Ramondre, but he could take some carries off of him as well. He's not really your pass catcher, but what do you think of those guys coming to New England?
You took Pierre Strong in the 4th round last year. You got to let him play.
Yeah.
And Fournette's going to bury him. I'm not opposed to them adding another running back for depth, but that's not what Fournette is. Donovan Smith is a little interesting. I know he had a really bad year last year, but he was pretty good before that, especially in 2021. He had a career year. That's a guy I wouldn't mind them kicking the tires on. I wonder if he would be better as a right tackle. I also wonder if if they're really infatuated with a guy like DeJuan Jones, he's going to be the best left tackle on the market. I'm not giving Donovan Smith the bag, but he would be an interesting name to explore.
Remind me of the other, all the, like, as much as you know it, the list of tackles that are on the free agent market with McGlinchey and Smith.
All right. So right tackles,
Jawan Taylor.
there's basically like 5 starting caliber tackles. It's a
Okay.
top heavy group because the 6th tackle is Cameron Fleming in free agency, who is a swing tackle.
Yep. Right.
And I'm not including Orlando Brown because the report is right now he's going to be franchise tag. So your top right tackles are McGlinchey and Jawan Taylor are 1 and 2. That some people have them in different orders. I think it's, you want the floor or the ceiling. They're both starting caliber, good players. You can order that however you want. And then Caleb McGarry from Atlanta is the next guy. And he's more ceiling. He had a good year last year. It was a little slow to get going in his career, but he projects as a guy who can be a starter. So those are your 3.
Feels like a contract year bump.
Yeah, and you're kind of betting on that. He's a step below the other 2.
Right. Yep.
Those are your 3 starting caliber right tackles in free agency. In at left tackle, Donovan's Orlando Brown, again, we're assuming he's franchised. Donovan Smith is number 1. Isaiah Wynn's number 2. PFF has Isaiah Wynn right now as the top left tackle in free agency. So if it's not Donovan Smith, you're drafting a left tackle.
That's tough.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think they go for it? Do you think there's any chance that Wynn's back here?
I hope not. I don't think they do. He checked out at the end of last year. They don't like that.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I just think that sometimes, and again, we talk about the moves that Patriots make, and sometimes it's like, what are you doing? And this is not that it's not like them, but we say it's something they shouldn't do until they do it. But they haven't really done that this year. They've kind of made the moves they've needed to, with starting with Bill O'Brien and things like that. But
right,
yeah, I agree. I don't think Wynn's going to be back. The right tackles definitely favor it. It definitely favors right tackle over left, and so. Yeah, I'm sure that they'll look left tackle in the draft, which is why this week at the Combine is so important. Last Combine storyline, Alex, that I want to talk about.
Hang on, can we do one more cut? Because somebody actually asked about it.
Yeah.
Kenny Golladay is reportedly going to get released by the Giants. And the commenter here says, feels like he could alternate at the X with Parker. First off, they don't need any more alternates. They have plenty of good depth with Parker and Thornton and Bourne, and you have to let those guys play. I don't think you can bury them with another guy who is a B receiver. I also don't think Kenny Galladay's a B receiver. I think he's your 4th or 5th receiver on the depth chart. I know he was really good in Detroit, but Mike, on a Giants team last year that had no receivers, that was begging for pass catchers, in 12 games, he caught 6 passes for 81 yards. And
that's a yikes.
For what it's worth, we did this last year with Allen Robinson. I remember people were really high on Allen Robinson because, look at what he had been, right? Look at how good he'd done. But the production the year before was just, I kept bringing that up. Like, hey, he was terrible last year. Like, keep that in mind. He's not the player he once was. And I got kind of knocked for it. And then what happened with Allen Robinson this year?
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, 6 catches in 12 games on that team. I'd stay the hell away. Zero interest, none.
That was similar. I guess he had a few years of good production, but that was sort of a contract year thing with him as well. Up in Detroit, he had one really good season. The Giants completely over.
He had 2,000-yard seasons in Detroit there, but yeah.
Okay, fair. But the point being that he got paid and he sort of completely fizzled out. So even at a cheap number, I don't think it's worth it. Actually, one other cut that I wanted to bring up and pick your brain on was John Johnson III, Boston College kid. He is likely to be cut from the Browns. He's been fine at safety. He was with the Rams. I think he just missed out on their Super Bowl run, signed with the Browns right before that. But I don't know. Something tells me he could be a guy that the Pats kick the tires on, depending on if McCourty retires. What do you think of him? What do you know about him? Anything good?
I could see it. I like the free agency market. I wouldn't mind them spending there, right? Von Bell, Jesse Bates, Jordan Poyer. He's probably a step below those guys. Now, look, if they spend money, also let's say they pay a tackle and they go and trade for it and they pay a wide receiver. then yeah, Johnson's probably a guy you look at as like, hey,
Right.
second tier safety that, you can't pay top of the market at every single position. But I don't know. I think they can pay a safety. I think they can.
Yeah.
So I'm not, we put a pin in him. Like, yes, he is a guy. Johnson is a guy I could see them talking to. We'll put a pin in that one, but let's see how the combine plays out in the first couple of days. I don't think he's a guy that's going to sign in like the tampering period, right?
Right.
I think he's probably a guy that signs late in the week, maybe early of the week after. So again, we'll put a pin in that one and revisit it because it's an interesting name, but it's a little early.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right, Patriots news at the combine. A little sort of Patriots, but when we were on our show last Thursday, the news broke that Matt Patricia interviewed for the Broncos defensive coordinator position. He obviously didn't get it. They ended up giving it to Vance Joseph. But Sean Payton out in Indy today was asked about Matt Patricia and basically said that while they did release the list of their defensive coaching staff, that Matt Patricia could still end up having a job in Denver. Ian Rappaport from NFL Network also said that he could see him sort of in a defensive advisory role, something similar to what he had last year in New England. Obviously, he didn't succeed as an offensive coach. He will never be an offensive coach again. But it sounds like Sean Payton likes Matt Patricia. It sounds like Matt Patricia could still latch on in Denver, even though it sounded like late last week that he might not. So what do you think about that? Do you think it's a good move? Is he going to end up there? I don't know. I just want to get your thoughts on that from a Patriots perspective.
Well, so Ian Rappaport said today he thinks Patricia's going to end up there. So, I'll piggyback off of him because he tends to know things and say, yeah, I think he's going to end up there.
Yeah.
Here's my bigger takeaway. If Patricia doesn't end up in Denver, I don't think he's back in New England. This is and not even that, like, I don't think the Patriots want him back. We don't know what his status is right now, right? We don't know what his employment status is. We know Joe Judge is still under contract.
Mm-hmm.
We never got any clarity on what happened with Patricia at the end of the season. We didn't know what his contract was. This is
Can we assume now, sorry to cut you off. Can we assume that he's not under contract because nothing has came out about the Patriots needing to, approve the fact that he's going out there? Wouldn't something like that potentially come out and sort of be news alongside of it and not just the fact that he's going to interview?
Not necessarily, because you don't.
Okay.
You can't refuse an interview for a promotion. And remember, his title was offensive line coach.
Okay, that's fair.
So position coach to coordinator, even if it's on the other side of the ball, and it's ridiculous we have to go over this.
Right.
Position coach to coordinator, you can't block that interview. And right. But Mike, that's kind of what I was going to say, though. These feel like really in-depth conversations, interview, negotiations, however you want to characterize it. These feel like really in-depth conversations to have with the guy who's under contract of another team.
Right.
So when he first interviewed, I didn't think too much. I was like, okay, well, this could still be if he's with the Patriots. I feel very confident saying now, I don't think he has a contract in New England. I do not. I think that he is a free agent, so to speak. And it doesn't seem like the Patriots seem very interested in bringing him back.
Yeah, I would agree. And I guess have at it. For the Broncos, maybe if he helps you, great. But I don't
go
need
for
him
it.
back
Yeah,
here.
good luck.
Yeah, exactly.
Broncos country, right. Let's ride.
Yeah, so that's our NFL storylines, or NFL Combine storylines. So let's get into Patriots prospects to watch. Alex, I know you had a huge write-up on this on 98.5 this week. I wrote something on CLNSmedia.com this week with 5 prospects to watch. I have some other ones in mind too, building off of some mock drafts that had, guys like Jordan, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Zay Flowers coming to New England. So those are guys I'm keeping an eye on. But Alex, let's go with you. I'll let you sort of set it up with your draft stuff, and I'll build off of it, I suppose. But who are you looking at this week at the Combine, and what can we talk about?
So let's go position by position, because that's what we typically do, and we'll go like in the Madden order. So we'll start a quarterback. The one guy I'm really interested in this week is Hendon Hooker. He's not going to work out. He's still recovering from that torn ACL. But I'm assuming we're going to get some sort of report on where he's at medically, on where he's at in his rehab and his recovery process. And it's going to be very interesting, because if he's healthy, I think he's a first-round pick. I have him ahead of Will Levis. And look, Will Levis is going to test off the charts. I still don't understand what teams see in Will Levis. Like, I honestly don't.
Yeah.
If he's not healthy, then it gets really interesting because it feels like he needs his rookie year is a really important part of his evaluation because he is 25.
Right.
And he needs to be able to hit the ground rolling. There's not a ton of ceiling with him. So I'm really interested to see him. The other guy I want to see is Jaren Hall, right? I've talked about this before. The quarterback position this year, there's 4 first-round picks, 4 probably top 15 picks. Hendon Hooker, who's kind of this question mark. Tanner McKee, who's just going to go in the 3rd round because teams love taking bad quarterbacks from Stanford in the 3rd round. Like he's whatever, vanilla.
Yep.
He is a white bread quarterback. And then there's this massive drop off until the end of day 3. I think if anybody's going to climb into that, early, not even late day 2, but like early day 3 group, that fringe top 100 group, it's Jaren Hall. But he's going to need to test well. And I think he's going to need to interview well. And that's not his fault. But the last quarterback that came from BYU was a dumpster fire mentally. And I think teams are going to be wary of that. Now, I've compared Jaren Hall to Zach Wilson in the past, and I think his play style is similar, but teams are going to be worried about what that program's producing quarterback-wise between the ears. And it's unfortunate Jaren Hall's going to have to deal with that because Zach Wilson's just such a shithead, but it's going to be interesting to see like if the reports about how he's interviewing.
Yeah, so not really from a Patriots perspective, but just quarterbacks in general. I'm super excited to see Anthony Richardson because his stock just continues to skyrocket because I heard this the other day, I forget where, but the farther away we get from actual games played and the closer we get to watching guys in shorts throw a football as far as they can, the boards just go like this everywhere. And guys skyrocket, guys fall. A guy that's on his way up is Anthony Richardson because of all the physical tools. He throws, he's got a cannon of an arm. He's fast. He can make plays with his feet. He will be working out. So will CJ Stroud. Bryce Young will not throw. So that sort of feels like Bryce Young knows that he's going to be the number 1 pick type thing. And they don't really like to do it outside of their pro day, where guys like CJ Stroud, guys like Anthony Richardson, guys like Will Levis, they have some to lose, but they also have some to gain here. So all those guys are throwing. So that's what I'm looking for. I always like watching the quarterbacks and receivers throw just because you get to see what kind of arm talent these quarterbacks have. Anthony Richardson will probably jump off the page.
Yeah, he's going to be – we're going to come out of the combine and people are going to talk about him potentially being the 1st overall pick. I don't think he will be because his play is just too erratic and he's way too raw at this point. Everybody knows how I feel about Josh Allen and how erratic that's my favorite word for Josh Allen, right, is erratic. Anthony Richardson makes Josh Allen look like the picture of consistency. And that's not even necessarily a knock. Anthony Richardson's highs are probably higher than Josh Allen's. I just think his lows are lower.
Yeah.
It's like he's so extreme. And if he ends up in the right spot, he's going to be the best quarterback in the league. Yeah. But he has to end up in the right spot because if he's not, it's going to be a disaster. But I don't remember the last time we saw a quarterback this physically gifted in the draft. So it's going to be really interesting to see him. And the other thing, I'll just piggyback on that real quick with Bryce Young. There was a report over the weekend that he officially measured in at 5'10". I don't know where that's from because they haven't done the quarterback combine measurements yet. But if he's 5'10", I don't think it's a lock. He's the 1st overall pick. And I'm not saying that's right.
Yeah, I know.
Teams love to overthink combine measurements. So we'll see what he measures in at. All right, running backs.
Yes.
I want to see if Jahmyr Gibbs can catch Bijan Robinson. I've said this before on this show. I think Gibbs, all things considered, is the best running back in this draft. For the modern game, where you're calling 30, 35 passing plays a game, and your running back needs to contribute as a pass catcher, I will take Jahmyr Gibbs over Bijan Robinson, even though Bijan Robinson is a better pure runner. How does he catch him? He's got to have better drills. And, I think he can. I think he can do it. I don't know that he's going to do it, but I think he can do it. So it's going to be interesting to see.
I think Bijan's just physicality as far as like his size and his strength and the way he's going to run. I know Gibbs is also a freak athlete, but you just look at a guy. It like I said, it's shorts and shirts season where you look at Bijan Robinson next to Gibbs, who's a little bit shorter, a little bit lighter. It's like, how do we not take this beast? Well, we look at what a guy like Derrick Henry has done the last few years. I know that I'm not comparing Bijan to Derrick Henry. I'm just saying that size matters at the combine. It does. So it might be tough, but I'm with you. I'm interested to see that too.
A couple other quick running back things.
Yeah.
Measurement. I want to see what Deuce Vaughn measures in at. It's listed at 5'6", 176. So that one's going to be interesting. He's gotten some Darren Sproles comps. Health-wise, Travis Dye, kind of like I said with Hendon Hooker, right? Travis Dye, he was at the Shrine Bowl. He's coming off that ankle injury. If he's healthy, I think he's one of the best pass-catching backs in this draft. It's him, Eric Gray, and Vaughn to me is like the day 3 James White types.
Okay.
And then you talked about big backs. Tavion Thomas checked in at the Shrine Bowl at 6'1", 247. If he runs in the 4.5s, so right now he's projected to go undrafted. If he runs in the 4.5s, he's going to shoot up the board.
Yeah.
I don't know that he's going to run in the 4.5s, but if he runs even a decent 40, his projections are going to start to get goofy. And by the way, I love Tavion Thomas. I've seen some people throw out the LeGarrette Blount comparison. I won't go that far, but I see why people are making it because he runs pissed off. He hates people trying to tackle him. So again, 6'1", 247. If he can get going even a little bit, he's going to be an interesting player to track in this draft. So he's another, I'll be watching his 40 for sure.
What do you think about a guy like Tajay Spears from Tulane? Because I was watching some of his stuff, both from the Senior Bowl and then some stuff of him at Tulane. He only caught, I think, like 45 balls in college, but he showed off some route running skills. I think he was the 5th leading rusher in the NCAA this year. What do you think of a guy like him? I don't know if they want to try and mold him into a pass catcher because he's not really that big downhill back, but he was a good running back. So.
Yeah, he reminds me, honestly, a lot of kind of Pierre Strong coming out last year. So, he had a really good Senior
Strong
Bowl.
killed it rushing when he was at San Diego, South Dakota State, right? Yeah.
Yeah, he had a really good Senior Bowl. He's going to try to build. I'm talking about Spears now. Really good Senior Bowl. Yeah. He's going to try to build on that this week. Yeah, if he runs a good 40, he's going to get into the day 2 conversation, I think. But look, I think the 3rd running back spot in this draft is wide open. It could go to a number of guys: Kenny McIntosh, Sean Tucker, Izzy Badakanda, Charbonnet. I kind of like Dwayne McBride from UAB. I think he's sneaky good. But Spears is certainly going to be in that conversation. We're going to kind of sort that out this week.
I look at Kendre Miller too from TCU.
So Kendre Miller reminds me a bit of, not like Ramondre now, but watching him at TCU reminds me of watching Ramondre at Oklahoma. Like there's a lot of similarities there.
Yeah.
He's an interesting player, and he's if the Patriots are going to go with the running back in the top 100, I don't think they will, but it wouldn't surprise me. Kendre Miller, like specifically for the Patriots, is a name Patriots fans should know.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm excited for running back. I get excited.
Running back's fun at the combine. Running backs, like combine's a running back event.
Yeah, I mean NFL draft is a running back event because it's such hear me out. Let me explain.
Okay.
Because it's not a first round running back event, but it's like okay guys don't want to pay. You don't want to pay running backs. Guys don't want to sign them to second contracts. So there's a happy medium where you want to find those guys in like the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th round where they're not a first round pick, so they're not getting a huge payday. You're not burning a pick on them, but you're also bringing in guys who you want to, like an Alvin Kamara, who was a 3rd round pick, or even Ramondre, who was a 4th round pick. Now he's a top 10 running back in the NFL. So I like seeing where running backs are going to slot. You get the point. It's not a first round running back event, but it's interesting to see where those guys come out.
No, that's fair. I'll give you that from that point of view. All right.
Yeah.
Wide receivers. This is a big combine for wide receivers because there is so many questions still to answer. There is such little consensus. Yep. I have right now the top tier of wide receivers is 4 players: Quentin Johnston, Jordan Addison, Jackson Smith-Njigba, and Zay Flowers. Now, part of the reason I can't come up with an order is, well, who are we talking about? Are we talking about the Patriots? Are we talking about a team picking ahead of the Patriots, right? Because there are some teams I think might have Quentin Johnston as their top wide receiver. There's some teams that might have him as their 4th. Right. But even within that, it's a little tough to tell the order right now. So I think with Addison and Flowers, the measurements are going to be big.
Yep.
And I think when it comes to the 40, I'm just assuming Zay is going to run a great 40. I've kind of written assuming that's going to happen. Johnston, Addison, Smith, and Jigba to different degrees are all sort of questions.
Mm-hmm.
For the Patriots fans who want Quentin Johnston, if he runs like high 4.4s and the 4.5s, I'm out. He's not what they need. They need speed. He's not speed. He's just size at that point. If he runs in the 4.3s, like some people think he's going to, he's not going to be there at 14. You're not getting him anyway.
Yeah, right.
So it's a catch-22. It's just interested to see which way it goes with Quentin Johnston. In Jigba, kind of similar to me. Elite route runner.
Yeah, he really is.
He's got to prove he has the afterburner to run away after he catches the ball. If he proves he can do that, now I still think he might be on the board of 14 because he doesn't have the size. But like his 40 is going to be telling. And then with Jordan Addison, to me, I think Jordan Addison's top 3 no matter what.
Yeah.
But if he runs the best 40, he's going to come away the consensus #1 receiver in the draft. So that's what his stakes are.
Yeah.
And for Zay, again, I think Zay's going to run a great 40. Like that's his best trait. There was the picture that was shared over the weekend where he's up from 170 to, he says, 183 and putting on the muscle. Let's see what the measurements are. And let's see where he's at in like the 10-second split, right? How explosive is he? If he does the bench, kind of how he moves in the open field. So his is a little different, but it's going to go a long way in sorting those 4 guys out. Because I'll tell you this, if you think you have those 4 guys sorted 1 through 4 and you're comfortable about that rating, you're lying to yourself.
Yeah, right.
You can certainly think you have a reason to have them 1 through 4 and be happy about it, but you should not be putting that in pen yet. That should be lightly done in pencil. Because I don't feel comfortable about the way I have. I've been changing it constantly because we don't have enough information yet. We're getting that information this week.
That's why it's a big week. Looking at the wide receivers, I think you're right. I think about the guys outside of Johnston, just Smith and Jigba, Flowers, and Addison, and I look at them as Patriots-wise, pick 14. That's what's going to happen. I don't think they're going to go Quentin Johnston. I just think that, I see it in the chat, comparing him to N'Keal Harry. I get that you don't want us to do it, but big, slow receiver who has a high ceiling and a low floor. Well, I mean, that's sort of what he is, right?
So, we don't know he's slow yet, but he's going to be one of 2 things.
Fair.
He's going to be a big, fast receiver, and those guys go in the top 10 or the top 5. Mm-hmm. Or he's a big, slow receiver, and the Patriots don't need that. Like, he's one of 2.
Right.
And either way, they're not drafting him. So, and I'll say everything I said about that top group in terms of the sorting it out and where do we go from there, the secondary group of slot receivers, you could say the same thing. And that to me is just the order I have them written down because I think
that's where I was going to go. Right.
It's not alphabetically. I'll give it alphabetically so I don't piss people off. Kayshon Boutte, Josh Downs, Tank Dell, Xavier Hutchinson. That to me is like the secondary tier of slot guys. It's the same thing. 40.
Did you say Jalen Hyatt?
No, I didn't. Jalen Hyatt's not a slot receiver to me.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
I also he's Taekwon. They don't need a double dip. They don't need a double dip at that spot. To me, if they're taking wide receiver on day 2, it's one of these 4 guys. They need in the slot, and it's Downs, Boutte, Dell, Hutchinson. 40's big for all of them. Measurements are going to be big for Dell. Interviews are going to be big for Boutte. I think agility drills are going to be big for Hutchinson as well.
Yeah, I agree.
And we'll sort that out. I think, again, you can have those 4 in sort of whatever order you want, and I'm not going to disagree with you, but I just think you're kidding yourself if you're comfortable about the order you have them in right now.
Yeah, I would agree. There's tiers, but there's no separation within those tiers.
Not yet.
So I'm with you. I'm just taking a look at other receivers that you might want to keep an eye on. Rashee Rice, Parker Washington.
So the one other guy that could sneak, the one guy who could sneak into that second tier group to me is Rakim Jarrett from Maryland. I'm a big fan of his game. I think he slept on because it's Maryland. Like, you don't think of Maryland as being this, although Stephon Diggs went there.
Diggs. Yeah.
They had another one too. Who else went to Maryland? They had another really good receiver. I can't think of it. Anyway, put it in the chat. But that's the one guy I think he could maybe. So let's do this. Actually, If anybody's going to sneak from that second group to the first group, to me, it's Josh Downs. If anybody's going to sneak into that second group, to me, it is Rakim Jarrett. And the one other receiver I'm interested to see, I think he's going to be a day 3 guy, but I want to see him test, is Demario Douglas from Liberty.
Yeah.
Who was a standout at the Shrine Bowl and looked really explosive to me. So I don't have a ton of exposure to him because I didn't watch a ton of Liberty, and it's kind of tough to find stuff. But I'm interested to see how he tests. DJ Moore was the other one.
DJ Moore.
Thank you, Patriots Media. Thank you.
Yep. All right, so that's the receivers. I think move to tight end. Want to go tight end? The deepest class we've ever seen, according to Daniel Jeremiah from NFL
It's
Network.
up there. It's up there.
Yeah.
It's kind of similar to my running back take, honestly. Can anybody catch Michael Mayer at the top of the class? I have not been wowed by Michael Mayer like some people. I think he should be a first-round pick. I think he's going to be a good player. I don't think he's generational or anything like that. I want to see Darnell Washington run a 40. 6'7", 270, mauler of a blocker. Tacklers bounce off of him. But you got to be able to move at the NFL level because the tacklers are going to be bigger and stronger, and they're going to get to you quicker. I need to see because some people think he's going to run like a 4.9. And if that's the case,
if he runs a 4.9,
at that point, he's a tackle.
So
at that point, he's a small tackle.
Yeah, right.
But if he can get like that 4.6, even in that 4.7 range, it's going to be interesting.
Take a shot.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people like Dalton Kincaid, and he's up there. But if Washington runs well, he's going to be in that mix.
Yeah, I think so too. That's what I want to see is Washington show some speeds, show some athleticism. That's not just a bowling ball that can compete in college, but a bowling ball that can compete in the NFL, right? The other guy I'm looking at too is Sam Laporta from Iowa, just because they have been tight end university for the last 5-6 years now, with guys like Kittle and Hawkinson and Noah Fant. And so they breed them out there. He's athletic. There's been a couple plays I've seen from him where his yards after catch is just unbelievable. He breaks tackles and he gets away. He has some speed, so I'd like to see that from him as well. And then Cameron Latu is a guy I'm keeping an eye on because of the Alabama connection.
I'll give you one more because I think it makes the most sense for the Patriots to go tight end on day 3 and really 5th round or later. Zach Kuntz is kind of hidden. Nobody really knows about him. He was at Penn State for 3 years. He didn't play. Transferred to Old Dominion. Had a great year in 2021, but he wasn't going to the draft, so nobody really talked about it. And then he played 3 games this year and got hurt. And we don't know what that injury is. So the first thing with him at the combine, maybe we find out some injury information.
Right.
But he's let me pull him up here real quick. He is listed at 6'8", 245. So again, we'll see how real those measurements are. 6'8", 245. And supposedly, Mike, he's running 4.5s in training.
Oh boy. Okay.
So again, there's questions here. He was at Old Dominion, right? He didn't have that level of play. We don't know what the injury was, but if he comes in at those measurements, I don't think he's going to last until the 5th round. But and the other thing is, and a reason I push back on the Patriots drafting Mayer, right, is I don't like that he's primarily an inline tight end. I think they need to be able to stretch their offense more horizontally. And I don't think you can play Mayer and Hunter Henry at the same time. Zach Kuntz lined up more in the slot than he did inline. And he lined up on the boundary a significant amount of the time as well. So he's almost he might actually be a big slot because he's not a great blocker. And look, at 6'8", I think he can learn to block. You can kind of get him there.
Yeah, right.
But if he runs well enough, teams might look at him and they might think he's a wide receiver. And that would be very interesting as well. So
just a 6'8" wide receiver, nothing crazy.
I'm not saying take the guy at 14 or anything.
Yeah.
But all right, I'm going to pat myself on the back here. Last year, about a week before the combine, I kind of stumbled on Tyquan Thornton. And people remember on this show, Evan was like, all right, enough talking about the wide receivers. Says, no, I have this guy. And Evan's like, he's undrafted, isn't he? I said, yeah, he is projected to, but I like him. And then he came out and he ran the best 40 in the combine. The Patriots took him 50th. About the same time I stumbled on Zach Kuntz. So We'll see. And now look, he might come out and run a 4.9 and then we can forget about it. I'm wrong. But this is players to watch. We're not making predictions here. This is players to watch. Zach Kuntz is absolutely a player to watch because we need to see how it goes.
If this guy is supposedly running 4.5s in training and then comes out and runs a 4.9, that's going to be the most disappointing thing you've ever done to me. So that's on you.
Tremendously disappointed as well. We will have the person who told me the 4.5 thing come on the show and we will both parade him.
Perfect. Okay. So keep your eye on Zach Kuntz.
Zach Kuntz from Old Dominion.
All right. ODU.
But I will say again, first 3 years at Penn State, which is kind of a tight end factory.
Yeah. The other tight end prospect that is not in Indy, that as I look at my rankings and the stuff I've done, is Jack Coletto. Kind of bummed he's not going to be there. I wanted to see what he would be, but he wasn't an invite. So he's a guy that's on my radar for the Patriots down the line. They liked him at the Shrine Bowl, but he's not in Indy. So I guess we'll see what happens at Oregon State's Pro Day, but he will not be there. So tight ends, let's see. Luke Musgrave is interesting from Oregon State. He's got size. He's got speed. He's sort of that second-tier tight end as well. It's such a deep class. Like Daniel Jeremiah said. Didn't Daniel Jeremiah say that 11 tight ends could go in the first 3 rounds?
Did he? He might have said that.
I think he said something like that. So it's a deep class, but we'll see where it goes. I would agree that the Patriots should look for one on day 3. So that's tight ends. Now the tackle position. Tackle.
So
this is a deep tackle class as well. So I'll let you kick it off.
Yep, but it's another one of these sorting out things.
Tiers. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, not even tiers. It's sorting out with it, right? We don't know. Peter Skoronski, Broderick Jones, Paris Johnson Jr. And I'm putting DeJuan Jones kind of to the side because we're just doing left tackles right now. What's Skoronski's arm length? Where does Broderick Jones come in on some of these measurements? How athletically does he test? Athleticism is supposed to be his carrying trait. How athletically does Paris Johnson test? Some people think he's a little stiff. Again, you can rank those 3 guys in whatever order you want. I don't think you're wrong, but you can't feel good about the order because we don't know enough. We're going to learn. We're going to kind of figure out, and more importantly, which of these guys has the best chance to make it to 14.
Yeah. The Skoronski one, like you said, it's interesting. It's going to depend. Everyone talks about his arms.
Yeah.
If he's a T-Rex, they might kick him into guard. So we'll see where that goes. But
the number to watch for the general, and look, it's the difference of an inch. I think people probably look into it too much, but the what's the word? Why can't I the benchmark for like tackle versus guard is generally 33 inches. And like Rashawn Slater, people worried about his arm length, and he came in at 32.5, and now he's a very good tackle. But if he comes in at like 31, I think people are going to be worried. But if he's over that 33 mark, I think he's unquestionably a tackle.
Yeah. Thinking about just, like you said, tiers and separating those guys, I think about wide receiver, tackle, and corner that same way as from the Patriots. Get familiar with the first and second tiers because wherever they go at 14, you're going to have to look at the second tier at 46. So those are your first tier tackles. The second tier, I look at guys like you said, DeJuan Jones, who right tackle, left tackle, I understand, but he's probably, like you said,
DeJuan Jones a tier 1 right tackle to me. I'm just separating the sides because as we talked about earlier, the Patriots are probably going to need to draft a left tackle.
Right. Then you got Darnell Wright, Anton Harrison, DeJuan Jones. I mean, Cody Ma. Is it Ma?
Mock.
Is that how you say his name? Mock. Okay. What do you think of those guys? I mean, that's sort of your second tier. If they go corner and if they go wide receiver, that's who you're going to have to deal with for the Patriots.
Yeah, I like Wright. I like Harrison. I think Mock's probably a guard. I'm not as high on the kid from Syracuse as some people.
Bergeron.
I do like Tyler Steen from Alabama. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe one of them really excites me right now. I don't like them cheaping out at this position this year.
Yeah. Speaking of Maryland guys, Maryland tackled Jalen Duncan is someone I'm keeping an eye on.
Yeah.
He's 6'6", 320. He's a really good run blocker, but they also use him. You know that clip that's been going around of Broderick Jones where they put him in space and he's just knocking out corners after corner? I've seen a few times Jalen Duncan does that for the Terrapins as well. Like I said, 6'6", 320. So put him out in space. He's a freight train. There, you can use him in a lot of different ways. So keep an eye on him too as your second tier guy.
Yeah.
But that's my take on the tackles.
All right. I honestly didn't do much on the later round tackles. That's where I'm at mentally with that position.
Yeah,
Let's go to
I
the
know.
defense.
I'm with you.
Let's go to the defensive line. I'm super excited to watch these guys. Look, I don't think the Patriots are going to take a defensive lineman in the first 2 days, but especially an interior one. But Devon Godshaw's hasn't necessarily lived up to that contract. I know he just got an extension, but he hasn't. Lawrence Guy's getting old. Carl Davis is a free agent. Daniel Qualley is a free agent. You're on the second half of Christian Barmore's rookie deal now. It wouldn't shock me if they take a defensive tackle on day 2. I would love it, but it wouldn't surprise me. And this is a really good defensive tackle class. There are some incredible athletes at the defensive tackle position in this class. Siaki Ika, Nazy Smith, Kalisha Canty. All three of those guys are going to be really fun to watch at the Combine. And we haven't really been exposed to them because they didn't do the Senior Bowl or the Shrine Bowl.
I like Moro Adromo. That kid was a beast.
So he'll be later. Yeah, and then him and Dante Stills. It will be interesting to see how they carry over from the Shrine Bowl.
And then Javon Dexter, is that his name, from Florida?
Yeah. So
one of the other guy who go ahead. I was just going to say he's on my radar too. Some guys that they've worked with, and just I don't know, interior defensive linemen that seem like they could jump off the page. And obviously not first round. I mean, the first round talent is really Jalen Carter and maybe Ika if he jumps in the back end. But that's pretty much it. From what I can tell.
I'll give you a couple other ones too, like defensive ends. Tuli Tuipulotu, I believe is how you pronounce it, from USC. Had 13 sacks last year. Like, if they want to do, remember there was that year, like 4 or 5 years in a row, they took an edge guy on day 2.
Yeah.
He's a fit for them. And then not even necessarily testing. And by the way, I think Brenton Cox is probably an outside linebacker, but he's working with the defensive line this week. Who's he talking to, right? Because he's one of these guys that has some of those character questions, was dismissed from 2 programs. Who's he speaking with?
Yep. So mixing edge and D tackle, I suppose. Andre Carter, Lucas Van Ness. Like, again, that outside linebacker edge type players. I mean, Will Anderson's Will Anderson. He's fun to talk about because he's the best player in the class, but he's going to be a top 5 pick.
So Carter's working with the linebackers, but he is a really interesting player to watch because he was
Anderson.
Andre Carter.
Oh, sorry. I was thinking Jay. Okay, I got you.
Andre Carter. So he's working with the linebackers, but he's a really interesting player to watch because he did have all that hype coming in. People thought there was a chance he was going to be a top 50 pick. And then he had a bad Senior Bowl. And now there's talk about, he was undersized because he had to adhere to certain height and weight or not height. He adhered to certain weight and build restrictions at West Point, which is a thing, by the way. Like, I do sort of buy that. So let's see if he's putting any weight on. Let's see if he has a bounce back. He's going to be really interesting to watch as we kind of transition to linebackers here. The 2 guys I want to see, and look, last year we were super underwhelmed by that linebacker class. And then everybody came out and tested through the roof. Leo Chenal, who we thought was like this old school thumper, ran like a 4.5.
Yeah.
So kind of in the same boat this year. I'll be honest, a lot of the first round guys don't do it for me. The 2 guys that I'm going to be watching, because they both could have come out last year. They both elected to go back to school. I thought both of them had a chance to be first round picks last year, went back, dealt with injuries this year. Now they're kind of projected to be day 2, maybe even day 3 guys. And that's Henry To'o from Alabama and DeMarvion Overshown from Texas. Both of those guys should crush the Combine and remind people why they were projected to be first round picks. I'm looking forward to seeing them.
Another linebacker is a guy like Noah Sewell. He does it for me, I would say. From Oregon, it's Penei Sewell's brother. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So another Oregon guy from Hawaii. He's another one of those. He's like a true old school linebacker. He's not like your fast, your speedy guy necessarily. I mean, I'm sure he's got some speed, but he's more of a Dante Hightower instead of a Mac Wilson, if you will. So a big thumper. So I'll keep my eyes on him. But then later guys, they've been linked to the Patriots is Aubrey Miller or Isaiah Moore. And then another one that I look at personally is Aubrey Miller from Jackson State. But Isaiah Moore is someone who was Shrine Bowl, worked with the Patriots, spoke with the Patriots, and impressed the Patriots. So he could be a later. He's more of like a tier 3 later day 3 guy, I would say. But he could also help himself this week as well.
So I look at like further down the board, right? If they want that next Mac Wilson, Raekwon McMillan, Cameron McGrone, Servassier Dennis from Pittsburgh, and D Winters from TCU as kind of those athletic middle linebackers. I mean, Winter is almost a safety, but I like those two guys. On the edge, a guy I like is Isaiah Land from Florida A&M. Now, he's really small. I got to pull up what his measurements are because I don't remember off the top of my head. Like, he checked in. So we got to see what he measures up at now. He was listed at, I don't know, it's not on his bio page. That's weird. Hang on here. 6'4", 225. So you got to be bigger to be an edge rusher. But he's quick. He plays with great motor. Can he get his weight up and still be as quick? I'm guessing he's going to come in over 225 at the combine. But how fast is he at 225?
Right.
That's going to be a question.
That's when you go to Andre Carter and ask how you keep size and speed up at the same time. So that's sorry, I'm just trying to pull something up here that's the linebackers. It's funny. I remember texting you a few weeks ago when I was setting up my draft rankings and thinking of how I want to do it and how you decipher between defensive line, edge, linebacker, where the middle ground is on each. And it's kind of just a cluster F. And we kind of just did that right here. We seamlessly went from defensive tackle, edge to linebacker all in one fell swoop. So not that they all play the same position, but it's interesting that just how that happens.
Yeah.
Want to go corner?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. This is where it gets. This is another a flag stick, if you will, with the Patriots, where it's wide receiver, tackle, and corner. So
yeah, and it's another one of these positions where again we have some sorting to do.
Yeah.
And oh boy, do we have some sorting to do with the cornerback
position. All three positions they need. They're deep, but it's like it's chunks. There's no one stands out.
But you know what? That could be a good thing because maybe the guy you think is better, other teams don't think is better. So,
right,
Mike, I have 7 corners all over. And this is only boundary corners. I'm not going to mention slot corners here.
Okay.
I have 7 corners with a first round grade. I have 15 corners with a top 60 grade. 7 corners are not going to go in the first round. 15 corners are not going to go in the top 60. There's going to be tremendous value here. The first tier that we need to sort out. And again, with bigger corners, the knock is always movement. All right, you're 6'2" with long arms, but can you change direction? Can you run with the receiver downfield? So as much as it's 40 time, and it is going to be 40 time with some of these guys, like the really bigger guys, like Julius Brents.
Yeah.
As much as it's 40 time, it's also 3-cone, and it's, I can never remember the name of it, but you know the drill where like they have the whole field there, the guy's standing in the middle, and the coach is the football, and it's like he holds it over his head, and then they have to run backwards, and he pulls it down.
Oh, yeah.
Left, right, like the change
3-directional
drill.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Those are going to be big. So the first group, these are the guys that I have like the true first round grades on. Joey Porter Jr., again, no particular order. Joey Porter Jr., Devin Witherspoon, Christian Gonzalez, Cam Smith, Keely Ringo, Emmanuel Forbes, Donta Banks. Okay. Those are my 7 first round corners. And between everything I just talked about, we're going to sort those guys out. And then the second group, and by the way, some of these guys in another year would have a first round grade from me. They would. I count 3 guys on this list that would have a first round grade for me. But Julius Brents, Tyreek Stevenson, Kai Blue Kelly, DJ Turner, Eli Ricks, Garrett Williams, Darius Rush, Jalen Jones.
It's deep.
That's 15 corners that so I gave the grades. I go top 60. What does that mean? Whatever. Every single one of those guys I just said, I think has a chance to be a plug and play contributor day one in the NFL. Now that can change. I don't think the number is going to be 15 coming away from the combine. I think it's going to be closer to 10. For instance, when I bring up Julius Brents, 6'3", 207. He's going to have probably the second longest wingspan next to Joey Porter Jr. Oh, well, that was Juwan Williams. Well, Juwan Williams ran a 4.8.
Right.
That should have been disqualifying at that point. Everybody knows how much I love Julius Brents. I've talked a ton about him. If he runs a 4.8, you won't hear me say his name again until the draft. And probably after that, right? So are they all going to test incredibly? Maybe. Like, maybe this class is just unfreaking real. And they all run 4.3s to 4.5s, and it's just,
And there's 15 corners in the first round.
Right. Blindfold, you throw a dart, you hit a good corner.
Yeah.
A couple guys are going to drop out. It's just the law of averages. Who it is, that's why we do the combine, right? To find out. I can't tell you right now who I think it's going to be, because clearly I think highly of all of these guys. But what a group. What a group to pick from.
It's good for New England that they have, and I've said it 3 times now, but wide receiver, tackle, and corner, they're so deep that they can get basically a player from each of these positions, and they could have roughly like you say, a top 60 grade, a top 2-round grade. Those guys are going to fall to round 3, and you're going to be able to get some of those guys. That's just how it's going to work.
Yeah. And the other thing is, like, it's not, there's been years where, and I'm trying to think of a specific example, and I can't think of one right now, but I know there's years where, like, they haven't needed a position, and you come into the draft process actually last year's a great example, because it felt like it was a decent tackle class. It felt like they needed a tackle. Mm-hmm. And then guys started falling off. They weren't testing well at the combine. There were some guys that had bad Senior Bowls. If you remember, I was super into Darian Kennard from Kentucky, who had a bad Senior Bowl and an awful combine. And guys start falling off, and all of a sudden, like, how you're projecting it to go, like, all right, tackle in the first is going to be easy now. All right, well, all the tackles are going to be off the board, like the actual good ones, the guys who made it through. And everybody else kind of isn't at the level that we thought they'd be at. With 15 corners, it feels super unlikely that's going to happen. Like, if they all test poorly, I mean, it'd be hilarious, but it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
It's not. And that's what makes pick 14 so interesting. And that's why as much as you want, obviously, we want the Patriots to do well. And so, like last year, when they're picking at 21 or whatever it is, they fall backwards. 21, and then I think they traded back to 29 for Strange or something like that.
Yes.
So, in that case, there's no point in looking at the top tier guys for the Patriots, because they're not gonna be there. When we're at 14, and then 2 years ago when we're at 15, it makes looking at these top tier guys, a guy who can come in and play right away for this team, that much more exciting, right?
I think the other element of that, and you're right, like, there's some, like, if they were 14th last year, I was telling everybody last year, I was getting mad at people. I was like, stop talking about Jordan Davis. Stop getting your hopes up.
Yeah, right.
Like, I was annoyed by it. I would be so all in on Jordan Davis this year for the Patriots, because it's different. The other thing that I think changes it, in another year, we wouldn't, even at 14, I don't think we'd bother talking about Joey Porter Jr., Devin Witherspoon. I think we'd say they need a corner. Those two would be nice, but it's not happening. But if a guy like Christian Gonzalez can jump, which, like, could happen, because it's again, some of it also comes down to, what are you looking for in a player? Like, Joey Porter Jr. is probably a better fit for the Patriots, but a team like Seattle, who's up there, they're probably going to like Christian Gonzalez better, just the play style, the experience. So we can talk about those guys, because in another year, they might be top 10 picks, like, locked. But because the class is so deep specifically at that position, and we don't have this consensus, at least for now, we can talk about it. Now, Joey Porter comes out and runs a 4.28 in a sub-7 shuttle, we're going to stop talking about him, because then he will be locked into the top 10.
Right.
But there's a lot of flexibility in this class right now.
Are they going to trade down?
They might. And I'll tell you this, they can trade to get a good player.
Yeah, no, that's 100%.
Overly far. But I'm working on some mock drafts right now that I'll have up on 985sportshub.com next week. Even like 3 or 4 spots, they should be okay.
Yeah.
Right now. Now, if all of a sudden Peter Skoronski is a guard and some of these corners test poorly, and Smith and Jigba doesn't run a good 40, then it changes.
Right.
But right now, I could probably move down a little bit. But
it's definitely exciting. This is fun.
Guys, I love this. As you can tell, guys towards the top generally only move down, right? Like how much are those stocks going to grow? So that's kind of what you have to keep in mind. The combine can be a little bit of a wet blanket at times.
Yeah.
Now it can go the other way. There could be a sleeper you found that tests great. Like if Zach Kuntz runs a 4.5, I'm not going to shut up about it. It doesn't really impact the first round, so it can be fun in that sense. But
I'm pulling up this guy's tape tonight, and I'm going to watch it until I fall asleep.
There isn't a ton, so good luck. But
okay.
he's a total unknown.
I have to order it, and it comes in like a VCR to my house.
He's a total unknown, which is part of the reason I hope they take him, because Evan's going to be so annoyed having to find tape on him, and he's going to complain about it, and I'm going to laugh at him. All right, let's do safeties.
I was just going to say, let's do safeties and get out of here.
Yeah. No, Mike, this is Patriots Beat. This is the second to last position. Come on, you've been here long enough to know that.
I'm sorry. Yeah, we'll hit specialists as well. You are correct.
Yep. So this is one of those, can anybody catch things again? Can anybody catch Brian Branch? Consensus number one safety. I think pretty comfortably. But I got to tell you this. I watch Alabama a ton, right?
His teammate.
I like Jordan Battle, man. Look, I think Branch is better. I don't think the gap is as big as some people are making it out to be. I think Christopher Smith from Georgia as well is another player in that group. So big time SEC safety class. Love that. Ton of fun. Game on. Let's see how they test.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. Trey Dean, Jamie Robinson, Antonio Johnson. It's almost like the first tier, like you said. I think the two Alabama guys, and then everyone else is sort of in their own amoeba tier too, but they all have sort of different things about them.
I'll put Christopher Smith up there.
Okay. Fair.
For now.
Yeah, but I look at Trey Dean every time because of what happened out in Vegas. MVP just feels like a Patriot.
So this is one of those things again where like, can he build on that? Because if he has a good combine, it suddenly becomes, well, he was great at the Senior Bowl, and then he had a great combine. He's building this momentum, and it's like, oh, he's taking this all very seriously and whatever. So like, Trey Dean can do he can. I think he's top 100 for the Patriots right now. I don't know that he's top 100 league wide. I think he can be after the combine.
Yeah. Quick break for uniform talk. The Eagles because I want to tie this to Trey Dean because I saw your tweet.
Yeah.
Quick uniform talk break is that the Eagles put in a rule change request to have players wear number 0. I don't know when that gets voted on, but
it's going to be at the league meetings in May.
There you go. So league meetings in May. The Eagles are what's the word I'm looking for?
Proposing.
They're proposing. I was thinking projecting. It wasn't coming out. Proposing a rule change that players can wear number 0. So Trey Dean III wore number 0 at Florida. Jack Jones wore number 0 at Arizona State. I would love to see number 0 in the NFL. What do you think?
No, I'm a number traditionalist.
Oh, come on. Really?
I don't like the single digits elsewhere. It bugs me. I'm with Tom Brady on this one. I'm with Tom Brady on this one.
No,
I'll say this.
Make it fun.
I'm fine with 0, just not 00. 00 looks stupid. That's only a basketball.
Yeah, 00 would be kind of weird. But no, I'd like to see. I saw. I don't know what his name was, but I was looking up players that wore number 0, and the Rutgers quarterback this year wore number 0.
And I thought Rutgers and UTSA too. I can't remember his name. But
that's awesome. I think that's hilarious. Seeing a quarterback wear number 0 and like a big D lineman, like a 400-pound D lineman, squeezing a number 0 over himself.
Linemen won't be able to wear 0 in the NFL.
Why?
Because there is still restrictions on. There are still some of those number restrictions like they used to be, right?
You're right.
So 0. Oh, I mean, I guess they could say anybody could wear it, but my guess is they would put it in the 1 through 19 category. Or I guess what's now the 1 through 49 category. So it would only be skill position players.
Yeah.
0 really is a defensive back number, with the one exception. Low key, tight ends can make 0 work. I don't know what it is, but they can. All right. You got any other safety? So one other guy I wanted to watch was JL Skinner. He obviously got hurt. He's not going to be participating, but from Boise State, 6'4", 215, box safety. It would have been fun to watch him test because if he moved well, he was going to sneak towards that top 50 conversation. But is he a guy the Patriots could do the Cameron McGrone thing where they take him in the 5th round and NFI him and all that? Like, just if you want names to know as a Patriots fan, even though he's not working out this week, JL Skinner, I would put on that list.
Yeah, I would agree. The last one was just Antonio Johnson, Texas A&M. I mentioned him before, but he's probably a fringe first-round guy. Makes big plays. He's a hard hitter, but I watched some of him today, and I thought he looked pretty good.
Yeah, I wonder about his tackling.
Fair.
I've seen him get juked out a little too much. And look, that can be coached, but that's why I put him in that top tier.
All right, let's do it. Specialists.
I actually don't have any coverage players this year. I'm super bummed. I don't have any coverage players this year. I did last year. Every time I find a coverage player I like, it turns out he also plays offense or defense a significant amount of time. So that's been annoying me. Actually, I don't know. I got to pull up the list. Is Aaron Cruikshank from Rutgers at the Combine?
I don't know.
Because he was like the Big Ten returner of the year. He had something like that. He covers kicks too. No, he's not there. Okay. So that one's out. Anyway. So the thing I'm looking for, Michael Turk won the Shrine Bowl. Bryce Behringer won the Senior Bowl. We get to see him head-to-head. Punters. Also, we get to see Jake Moody again. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah.
I love watching the punters run 40s because it's hilarious.
Yeah.
Because people act like it matters.
Why do they even run?
Okay, so actually, I forgot to do this at the beginning of the show. I like to remind everybody about this. Do you know why they run the 40-yard dash at the Combine, Mike?
Why anyone does?
Why that's like an event and why it's 40 yards.
No, I do not.
So when you're watching it, because they're talking about changing the Combine right now, right? And a lot of the drills are sort of antiquated. And we think about how much stock we have a player's draft evaluation. So there must be a good reason for it, right? Right? There must be a good reason we use that if we give it so much importance.
Sure.
Well, when they were coming up with the Combine in the 60s, the average punt traveled 40 yards.
Oh boy.
And they simply wanted to see, could you get downfield in time to cover a punt? That's where this whole thing comes from.
3 phases of the game.
So, just so you know, and look, we all do it. I do it. Unless you're actually talking about how good of a gunner a guy would be, you're not properly using the 40 times. You're not and we're all going to do it, and we're all going to make a big deal about it, and I'm going to do it, and I've already done it on this show. But is Zach Cox from Nesson, I'll actually see credit him for this. When the Patriots started putting Pierre Strong as a gunner this year, he mentioned that Pierre Strong's 40 time. And it is the only time I have ever seen the correct application of the 40-yard dash.
There you go.
The only time I've ever seen anybody use it.
That's hilarious. I like that.
If you ever wonder why do they run the 40-yard dash, that 3-cone, it makes sense. You're testing agility. There's agility on display. Bench press is self-explanatory. A lot of them are self-explanatory. Why is it 40 yards and why is that one so important? Because we got to see who
covering
can punt. I will say this, if you want to use the 40 for something, and we'll talk about this when we come back and we do our Combine recap show. They actually, if you go on the NFL's website, they'll give you what are called the 10-yard splits. And it's basically, what was it? In addition to the overall 40 time, how fast did it take the player to get 10 yards, to get 20 yards, to get 30 yards? Think about it, you're never really running 40 yards in the open field in the NFL, except on special teams.
Right.
The first 10-yard split is something teams put a lot of stock into, as much, maybe if not more than the 40 in recent years, because what that number tells you is how explosive is the player. How much energy do they exert from a standstill, right? What's their acceleration? What's their lower body? What's their pop from their lower body? So when we go through if you want to go through the 40 times and really dig into them, I encourage you, you, Mike, but everybody watching, look at the 10-yard splits because those carry some weight.
All right.
So there you go. You learned a lesson about the 40 today.
That's gonna be Final Jeopardy tonight. Is the origin of the 40 time. It's it's not.
Coverage? It's gonna be. I told you this, and now when you watch the Combine, the whole time you're watching the 40s, is all you're going to be able to think about is
Thank you for
Will
that.
Anderson running downfield to cover a punt.
Right, after he snaps it. He's going to be their long snapper. Will Anderson is going to be the Bears'
Yes.
linebacker, long snapper, and an ace in punt coverage because of his 40 time.
Yes.
So yeah, Turk didn't. Okay, I have a question for you before we get going.
Yeah.
Specialists, and you're the specialist guy. So Michael
Yeah.
Turk was at the combine last year or 2 years
Was
ago.
he?
Yeah,
Was he?
he did. He did a because he bench pressed like crazy, and I wanted to know how or why that happened and why he was there, and because I thought once you declare, you can't really go back to school. And if you don't know
I
the answer
guess
off the top
I'm
of your
looking.
head,
I'm looking at this right now. I guess he just
yeah,
went to the combine to go. Oh, he never declared. He it had to
okay.
do with COVID. It was a COVID thing.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
He was there in
Well, Michael Turk might
2020.
bench press because he bench pressed like crazy.
Yeah. Oh no, I met him. The dude's built. He spends a lot of time in
All
the gym.
right. Okay. Well, there you have it. That's our combine preview. Anything else before we get going, Alex? Any other combine things? We'll be back on Thursday, so that's still there's going to be plenty more post Thursday out in Indy. Like
Yeah.
quarterbacks throwing
So
Saturday.
the workouts don't start until Thursday.
Right.
So yeah, we yeah. So I guess we'll be back Thursday with
Perfect.
we'll kind of really start to look ahead at some of the workouts, and we'll go over maybe what we've heard
Yeah.
out of interviews and stuff like that. So
Sounds like it. Sounds like it. So yeah. We will be back Thursday. We'll get into the combine more. We will do some Q&A as well. So make sure to subscribe to the YouTube Patriots Press Pass. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcast. Follow Alex at Real Alex Barth on Twitter. He'll get you all caught up with draft coverage. I will do the same as well on Twitter at Mike Kadlick. You can read both of our stuff at 98.5 The Sports Hub and CLNSmedia.com, respectively. Again, we'll be back on Thursday. We'll keep you posted on Twitter when we'll be on. But until then, thank you for watching. Stay tuned to In Indy, and we'll see you next time.